Hi, this is analyst WXCast.org's forecaster Andrew Fleck here. Just on your Sunday evening, we're going to be talking about a potential storm coming up your early into midweek this upcoming week, because there is a threat of a storm that's going to get very close over the United States, and some models are a little shaky yet whether the storm is a little more offshore or a little more inland, and that can mean all the difference, whether a little more wintry precipitation or a warmer storm with some more rain. And we're just going to brush the edges of what we're thinking, at least for now. Our Analyst WXCast map is up for our first thoughts, and we do have the potential for more snow more inland this time rather than coastal near the big cities, just some mix and snow likely, and of course more to really the coastal plains and coast. We can expect a little mix, but mostly rain. So let's check out the weather models here and basically show you a few extremes and a few of the different ones. This is the Canadian. The Canadian has the storm more inland, and the GFS has it more coastal or just off the coast, and that's making a huge difference. If the Canadian is correct, where the Canadian basically forms the storm down in the Gulf here and then moves it over then Georgia, the storm comes then a little more inland over Virginia and continues to even stay more inland, almost going into Maryland. A lot of that warm air will get sucked in. The eastern side of that low pressure will be seeing some more milder temperatures in the upper 30s and 40s, and a lot of that rain can really be felt even a little west of the big cities, and of course especially eastward. There's also more of a thunderstorm chance with that. Now, if we go with the GFS, okay, the GFS is a little different here because the GFS keeps the storm coastal and then off the coast. And if that were to happen, there would be no or not much precipitation forming over the mid-Atlantic states or the Northeast at all. And of course, the storm takes or forms in the Gulf, and then it moves over Georgia, and then just goes east of the Outer Banks and Hatteras. And that's the scenario that's looking more unlikely rather than the CMC that looks a little more likely. And now, why exactly are these so different? Well, the CMC, we think, is picking up on energy a lot more or a lot better than the GFS is. And what energy are we exactly talking about? And that's the energy that's fuming down from the upper Midwest here. Another cold shot behind the storm is expected, and it really is going to wrap into the storm here. And the problem is the CMC is being able to really hook nicely into it, and that's why you have a storm more inland. But the GFS, on the other hand, is not following up on that energy at all, and the reason for that then is the cold air not hooking with the storm, and hence the storm will just basically boldly move offshore and not affect anybody with any wintry precip at all. Maybe back a little bit throughout the Carolinas and Virginia, but that would be it. So again, the models at this time, 2 days, 3 days out from a storm, very uncertain. But the one model I feel very confident in right now is the European model. Why so? Well, just like all the other models, there is agreement that the storm does form into the Gulf. But the Euro takes the storm up through Georgia and then continues to move it inland, and then off the coast here, I'd say eastern Virginia, south of Delaware, and then is able to really take a mean average between the CMC, the Canadian, and the GFS. And that's my thinking, definitely. And that would be the storm forms again in the Gulf, goes over Georgia, inland in the Carolinas, and then starts moving offshore in eastern or southeastern Virginia and south of Delaware. And that would really hook up nicely with our Analyst WXCast map, where we have the mixing, the rain, and the snow. Be sure to really follow that, because the forecast and our opinion on that is heavily reliable on that map. Last but not least, something that I always like to do in my forecast for some of you who watch my videos, and that is the climatic outlook on things. And what I did here is I looked at the this upcoming week's pattern, and I looked at where the blocking was, and then I went through past years of 20 to 30 years out, and I tried to look for similar patterns. And I found about 5 years, and I decided to blend them in to see if I could get any type of consensus that worked with this upcoming storm. And I found some very interesting information that actually does confirm the Euro pretty nicely here. This is 2 days before the storm begins to track up the eastern seaboard here. The blend of these years actually does have a trough digging, okay, behind or just before the Gulf here, and there's a little bit of energy here, and there's probably going to be more energy, or it's going to gain energy as it heads into the Gulf. But then watch what happens on the next imagery here 2 days later. Okay, look exactly where you have a storm. Around that area of northern North Carolina, southeastern Virginia, southern Delaware, you have a storm track right there. So, you know, the climatic area looks very similar to what the Euro and Analyst WXCast is thinking, but again, some of the models aren't at this time. So, like I said, we're definitely going to rely pretty heavily on our potential storm map for Tuesday and Thursday, where we do expect the low pressure to take the track over Georgia, I'd say inland or eastern areas of the Carolinas, and then off the shore, I'd say around southeastern Virginia, northeastern North Carolina, and that possibility of the more west you go, you're going to have more snow. In between, probably some mixing snow, and then during or in the path of that storm track and eastward, that's where you have your plain rain. Now, of course, like I said, you have one storm or one model that's more inland, one that's not. And I'm hoping that the next day, Monday, comes and all the models start really having agreement here. But if you have one inland and one east, you got to take a blend, and that's what we're taking here. So be sure to stay tuned with more updates on AnalystWXCast.org, where we will be tracking the storm and the latest information that comes in. Have a good evening, and we'll talk to you all this upcoming week.